Hello, everybody. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Part 4, Chapter 12. The discussion about the emancipation of women was a delicate one to carry on in the presence of the ladies, so it was dropped. But as soon as dinner was over, Pestsov addressed Alexey Alexandrovitch and tried to explain this question from the standpoint of inequality of rights between husband and wife in marriage. The principal reason for this inequality depending, in his opinion, on the difference established by law and by public opinion between the infidelity of a wife and that of a husband. Stepan Arkadyevitch suddenly offered a cigar to Karenin. "No, I don't smoke," replied the latter calmly, and as if to prove that he was not afraid of the conversation, he turned towards Pestsov with his icy smile. "This inequality goes, it seems to me, to the very root of things," said he, and he turned towards the drawing-room. But here Turowzun again interrupted him. "Have you heard the story about Pryatchnikov?" he asked, animated by the champagne, and taking advantage of a moment that he had been impatiently awaiting to break a silence which weighed heavily on him. "Vasya Pryatchnikov," and he turned towards Alexey Alexandrovitch as towards the most important guest, with a good-natured smile on his thick lips, red and moist. "I heard this morning that he fought a duel at Tver with Kvutsky and killed him." The conversation seemed fated on this occasion to touch Alexey Alexandrovitch on the sore spot. Stepan Arkadyevitch noticed it and wished to come to his brother-in-law's assistance, but Karenin asked, with curiosity, why did he fight a duel? "Oh, on account of his wife. He behaved bravely about it, for he challenged his rival and killed him." "Ah," said Alexey Alexandrovitch with unconcern. Raising his eyebrows, he left the room. Dolly was waiting for him in a little parlor and said, smiling timidly, "How glad I am that you came. I want to talk with you. Let's sit down here." Alexey Alexandrovitch, preserving the air of indifference caused by his elevated eyebrows, sat down near her. "All the more willingly," said he, "as I wish to ask you to excuse me for leaving you as soon as possible. I go away tomorrow morning." Darya Alexandrovna, firmly convinced of Anna's innocence, was conscious of growing pale and trembling with anger before this heartless, unfeeling man who coolly proposed to ruin her friend. "Alexey Alexandrovitch," she said with desperate courage, collecting all her firmness to look him full in the face, "I've asked you to give me news of Anna. You've not replied. How is she?" "I think that she's very well, Darya Alexandrovna," replied Karenin without looking at her. "Pardon me if I have no right to insist upon it, but I love Anna like a sister. Tell me, I pray you, what has happened between you and her, and what will you accuse of her of?" Karenin frowned and bent his head, almost closing his eyes. "Your husband must have told you, I think, the reasons which oblige me to break my relations with Anna Arkadyevna," said he, casting a glance of annoyance toward Sherbatsky, who was passing through the room. "I do not believe it, I do not believe it, and I never will believe it," murmured Dolly, pressing her thin hands together energetically. She rose quickly, and touching Alexey Alexandrovitch's arm, said, "We shall be disturbed here. Let us go in there, please." Dolly's emotion was communicated to Karenin. He arose and followed her into the children's schoolroom, where they seated themselves in front of a table covered with an oilcloth, somewhat the worse for penknife strokes. "I don't believe it, I don't believe it," repeated Dolly, trying to catch his eye, which avoided hers. "One cannot deny the facts, Darya Alexandrovna," said he, dwelling on the word facts. "But what has she done? Precisely what has she done? She's failed to do her duty and betrayed her husband. That's what she's done." "No, no, it's impossible. No, thank the Lord, you're mistaken," cried Dolly, putting her hands to her temples and closing her eyes. Alexey Alexandrovitch smiled coolly out of the corners of his mouth. He wished to prove to Dolly, and to prove to himself, that his conviction was immovable. But at this heated interference, his wound opened afresh, and although it was impossible for him to doubt, he replied with less coldness. "It's difficult to make a mistake when a woman herself declares to her husband that 8 years of married life and a son count for nothing, and that she wishes to begin life over again," he replied angrily, dilating his nostrils. "Anna and vice. I cannot associate the two ideas. I cannot believe it." Darya Alexandrovna, said he angrily, now looking straight at Dolly's distressed face and feeling his tongue involuntarily unloosed, I would give a great deal to be able still to have any doubts. Yesterday, doubt was cruel, but the present is still more cruel. When I doubted, I hoped in spite of everything. Now there's no hope, and moreover I have doubted everything. I'm so full of doubt that I cannot bear to see my son. I sometimes do not believe that he is my son. I'm very unhappy. As soon as Dolly met his look, she understood that he was telling her the truth. She pitied him, and her faith in her friend's innocence was shaken. Ugh, it's terrible, but are you really decided about the divorce? I've resorted to this at last because— Don't do it, said Dolly with tears in her eyes. No, don't do it. I see no other way to take. The most dreadful thing about a misfortune of this kind, that one cannot bear this cross as in any other, a loss or a death, said he, divining Dolly's thought. You cannot remain in the humiliating position brought upon you. On ne peut vivre à trois. I understand perfectly, replied Dolly, bowing her head. She was silent, and her own domestic troubles came to her mind, but suddenly she folded her hands with a supplicating gesture, and lifting her eyes fearlessly to Karenin, Wait a bit, she said. You're a Christian. Think what will become of her if you abandon her. I've thought of it. I've thought a great deal about it, Darya Alexandrovna. He looked at her with troubled eyes, and his face turned crimson. Dolly pitied him now from the bottom of her heart. When she told me of her disgrace herself, I gave her a chance to reinstate herself. I tried to save her. What did she do then? She paid no attention to the least of demands. Respect to propriety, he added, choking. One can save a man who does not want to perish, but with a nature corrupt to the extent of finding happiness in his destruction, what would have one do? Everything except divorce. What do you mean, everything? Only think that she will no longer be anybody's wife. She'll be lost. Oh, it's terrible. What can I do? Replied Karenin, raising his shoulders and his eyebrows, and the memory of his last explanation with his wife suddenly brought him back to the same degree of coldness as to the beginning of the interview. I'm very grateful to you for your sympathy, but I'm compelled to leave you, he added, rising. No, wait a moment. You must not give her up. Listen to me. I speak from experience. I, too, am married. My husband deceived me. In my jealousy and my indignation, I too wished to leave him, but I considered the matter, and who saved me? Anna. Now I'm living again. Now my children are growing up. My husband has returned to his family, knows his wrongdoing, is growing better, nobler. I live. I've forgiven him, and you ought to forgive her. Alexey Alexandrovitch listened, but Dolly's words were of no effect, for the anger which caused him to decide upon a divorce was rankling in his soul. He replied in a loud, penetrating voice, Forgive her? I cannot, nor do I wish to. It would be unjust. I have done what was next to impossible for this woman, and she has dragged everything into the mire which seems to suit her better. I'm not a bad man, and I've never hated anybody before, but her, I hate with all the strength of my soul, and I will not forgive her, for she has done me too great wrong. And tears of anger trembled in his voice. Love them that hate you, murmured Dolly, almost ashamed. Alexey Alexandrovitch smiled scornfully. He was familiar with these words, but they did not apply to his situation. We can love those who hate us, but not those whom we hate. I beg your pardon for having troubled you. Sufficient unto every man is his own burden. Having recovered his self-possession, Karenin calmly took leave of Dolly and went away.